when you're creating a presentation. As you know, the challenge, of course, to creating a presentation is to go up there and talk. That's what a lot of people do. Create a presentation, they get up and talk. And they talk and they go on, and they say whatever they have to do during that presentation. That's fine. Everything goes okay. But there's a kind of a choppiness to it. It's kind of like you say something and then you say something else. You're talking in your presentation about, well, now here we're going through, and you display your slide up there. Then going through, and then next slide. Okay. Here we're coming along and say, all right, next slide, and here's the next one, and here's the next one. And after a while, you realize it just next slide, and oh, here's something else, and oh, maybe you haven't seen this one, and we bring an old slide back again. It just doesn't quite work. That there's something just not quite fitting together about the presentation. And that's because it's just not really all tied together. Even if you have all the facts right, you know, all the stuff in your presentation, you know every slide back and forward, you've gone it over yourself or with a team, that's not enough. It's not enough to make a good presentation. Good presentation is something more. It has a quality. It has something about it. It moves smoothly along. And it's one of those things you probably don't think of. You're so focused on getting that slide right and getting all the facts right and getting everything kind of all put together. You get so focused on the slides themselves that you lose track of the presentation. And maybe you've done that. Maybe you've gone in that situation where you're saying, okay, well, I've got a few changes to make before the big presentation in 2 days. Next day, all right, it's just tomorrow, I've got a few tweaks to make. And then the day of the presentation, you say, quickly, send me the copy. Print it out. Give me slides. And then 5 minutes before you go up there on stage and talk to people, somebody hands you the deck of all the printed out things, and you quickly throw it out to all the people out there at your presentation, and boy, you go up there and rip through it. It just doesn't work out so well. I mean, you may be thinking, hey, as long as they're getting all the facts they need, as long as they're getting all the stuff they need up there, what's the big deal? What does it matter? Hey, we killed ourselves over these slides. I put all this deck together myself. It looks fabulous. It's beautiful. It's got whistles and train things, and things are moving around, and it's all sort of complex. And I took a slice of Bob's slides, a slice of Jack's slides, and a slice of Joe's slides, and put this thing together in a whole marvelous concoction. And there it is, and they're looking at it. They'd be wowed. But somehow they're not. And that's what happens when you don't tie things together. And there's a simple way to tie everything together, to tie everything in your presentation together to make it all kind of work. But you need to know what that is, of course, before you're able to do it. And if you have a presentation that's not tied together, you know it, because all of a sudden, those things you just threw up there, that presentation you handed out at the last moment and dealt around like the last hand in a Vegas casino, that you're hoping is going to win everybody over to your ideas, your thoughts, and whatever is going on. It's not working. You knew it wouldn't work because you just didn't feel right. As you gave the presentation, it didn't feel right. But once you understand what you need to do to kind of tie that presentation together, then you know what to do. And it starts with just tying the presentation together, but it's more than that. It's more than that. It's a way to tie the presentation. Once you get all the ties together for your presentation, there's something you really need to do to make sure it works. Two things after that really need to happen. Even after you get all the ties of the presentation together, two things after that really need to happen to make sure everything all kind of fits together in your presentation the way that works. You're going to find out what that is right now. presentation that's loosely tied together is, well, it's a mess. And maybe you've seen some of these presentations. Person gets up, they just start throwing decks out, throwing slide decks out, copies of them. And the slides come up, they seem as surprised as what's going on up there behind them as you are. It's like, whoa, look at that slide. Wow. Never saw that one before. Let's take a look at it, shall we? And you realize that everything isn't quite as smooth for the presentation, or maybe you've given those presentations. Where you take a look up there and say, whoa, I didn't know I had that slide in there. Oh well, let's roll with it. That's just not good enough. Because every good presentation needs to have linkages. Linkages. And linkages are simply things that link the presentation together. They link one part to the next part. So instead of saying, here's a slide, and here's a new slide, and here's another slide, and here's another slide, and here's another slide, that's not good enough. You want to link them together. What are these slides? Where do they come from? Why are they in this order? And hopefully you've thought about that. And then once you've thought about that and you know why the slides are in that particular order, you can start guiding your audience through to understanding why that order is important. Something as simple as you see in this slide, we have our revenue going up, 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 up. In a little bit, you're going to see what we're going to do with all that great revenue we have coming in. Well, that's a linkage. Taking this slide and you're tying it into linking it into the slide that's coming up that they haven't seen yet. But at least they get a sense of what's going on. Instead of if you're in a team presentation, it's like, oh, that's all I got for you. Sally's going to come up here and give you something else. Doesn't tell anybody anything. We say, well, that's the profit side of things. For now, Sally's going to tell you a little bit what we're going to do with that profit. Where it's going to go, how we're going to allocate it, and what's going to be happening in the next 5 years of this company. Okay, there you have something. There obviously you can get a sense, oh, that's what's going on. I get it. And once you link things together in that way, then your presentation starts to flow. But not only can you link things together that way in your presentation, you also need to form some sort of link with your audience. The thing many presenters get confused about, many speakers get confused about, is they think it's all about them. It's all about them. Hey, it's about me, it's about my slide, but all this stuff up here. But it's really not. It's about your audience and what they take with them. It's all about you. So you can form linkages just by mentioning you. As you'll see in the next slide coming, as you'll see here, we have our profit coming along. Or you might be wondering, what are we going to do with all that money? Well, here it is. That's another linkage. You anticipate the questions the audience might be thinking, you mention it, and then you answer that question with the next slide that comes up. It's another way to link things. So think about linking not only your slides, but also your audience, so everything kind of flows together. You can start linking things with names. Well, Bob here was asking about what sort of revenues we're going to have and what we're going to do with them. Well, Bob, here's what we're going to do with those revenues. As you can see, you might wonder, gee, are we going to continue to have those revenues? And as you can see this next slide, yes, we're going to continue to have those revenues coming in. Things are looking good. The companies are fine. These are just ways you can link everything in your presentation together. Form those links. Get those links going so people see it's not just a bunch of random slides, slide. Things link together. And in your talking, you can even form links on your slide. Or each of your slide can indicate sections, so like revenue, projected revenue, plans for projected revenue. Have little sentences on your slide that indicate what those slides are, what that whole section of slides you're going to talk about is about. Link everything together. Some people do those links, but just linking alone isn't enough. There's still a couple other things you need to do. All right, You're linking things together in your slides, which is great. And things are starting to flow. You're starting to say, okay, here's the revenues going on, here's the projections are going on. The problem is one thing. And it's something most people do. They may form the links of what they're talking about. They may have those links down and get some sort of idea about, I've got to throw a link here and I've got to throw a link there and I've got to link to the audience. That's all wonderful. But they forget to do something else. They forget to do something else. Because of that, it creates a problem. And it's a thing a lot of speakers do. A lot of speakers do it. A lot of presenters do it. And because they do that, their presentations don't flow. They don't go as well as they possibly could. And that's simply they don't verbalize. Verbalize. See, what a lot of people do when they're working in a presentation, or even speech for that matter, is they just kind of think, if I just get it in my head, it's okay. So when they're running through a presentation, a slide presentation, talking about in this case, they say, okay, this slide I'm going to talk about so-and-so, and this slide I'm going to talk about revenues, and this slide I'm coming up, I'm going to talk about costs, and then if they're doing a team thing, okay, Bob, at that point you'll say something about what's going on with their, what we're going to do with their revenue, and after that you talk about projected revenue. Okay, Sally, going over there with projected revenue, you're going to talk about some of the losses we have, but how we're going to overcome those losses going on, and you talk kind of general talk about it like, okay, you'll be working on this, you'll be working on that, but you don't actually verbalize exactly what you're going to say. You don't really work it over before you get in front of that audience. And it's not a big deal, it's just a casual thing, just casual talking back and forth. Great, no problem. You can make things up in the top of your head. You got a point, you're going to make it, fine. You got one point to make, you can do that, you can wing it. But if you have a whole presentation you're going to string up there, and you don't verbalize it, it's just not going to be as effective. Your audience is going to think, who are these clowns? Who are these people in front of? What are they talking about? Yeah, I get it. It's supposed to be something about revenue and profit and loss, but I don't get how all this stuff fits together. And I don't think they get it either. They sort of get it, but they don't really get it. And that's why verbalizing is so important. Not just enough to practice. Practice is great, but a lot of practices become like fake practices. So, well, you're going to say something about this, you're going to say something about that. No. Verbalize. Go through it. Okay, here's what I'm going to say when I get up there. I'm going to say this, and say it. Actually say it. As you can see here, the profits are going up, 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 up. And you may wonder, geez, what are you going to do with those profits? Well, here it is. Practice that line, whatever line it is. Verbalize it. Say it out loud. It's tempting. It's tempting to think, oh, this is easy stuff. I'll just kind of wing it when I get up there. And you get into that sort of thinking, okay, we'll just get the slides together, and then 5 minutes before I get up, we'll deal the deck out, and we'll go up there and just wow them. No, you won't wow them. You wow nobody. Instead, you'll get up there, you'll hem and haw, you'll mumble and stuff, and your audience will thinking, what is this garbage? What's going on? Instead, verbalize it. Take the time to practice. Now you're going to say, Tim, okay, well, what if I don't have that amount of time? What if I don't have the time to go through my half-an-hour presentation? I don't have a half hour of my day. Well then, find a half hour in your night. And you've got no time at all to practice your presentation. Maybe you'd better find the time. Because how are you going to get up there and actually do linkages and link things in a powerful way that's going to impact your audience and get you that whatever you're talking about, transform the audience the way you want to transform if you don't take the time to go through it? If you don't take the time to go through and learn your slides and understand them and figure out what's in them, why is your audience going to have to do it? How's your audience going to get it if you don't get it yourself? If you just threw this thing together 5 minutes before you get up there, how's your audience going to understand that? They aren't. So verbalize. Verbalize when you're going through, and really practice getting that presentation just exactly right so it has the right effect on your audience. Okay, things are coming along. You're thinking, all right, I go up there, I want to link things. It makes sense. I want to make sure all my slides flow together and have some sort of expression to link my slides together. So one slide leads to the next, leads to the next. Great, no problem. And then I want to go through and make sure that I verbalize. Make sure I say out exactly what I'm going to say up there. And it may change a little bit, but I've got a strong idea in my head what sort of thing I want to talk about, where my linkages are, the sort of wording I'm going to use for languages. That's great. Then I'm done, right? But then there's a problem. How am I going to remember all that? How am I going to remember all that stuff when I get there? That's a lot of stuff to remember. How am I going to get that into my head? And that has all to do with spaced learning. Spaced learning. So here's the thing. A lot of people treat any sort of slide presentation as if it's some sort of exam where they just got to kind of cram the night before. So the night before the big presentation, they get up and say, okay, we're going to do this and this and this. And maybe they go through it once, maybe twice. They verbalize it. Maybe they verbalize it. They actually get up there in front of people, did just the words slide out. They're like, okay, this slide here, the profit slide, yeah, the profit slide is going to the, oh, yeah, right, what we're going to do the profit slide, yeah, the revenue, right, is going to help to buy all this stuff, well, it can be a disaster. Because although you've been verbalizing, you really haven't got it in your head. That's why you need spaced learning. And spaced learning is simply putting a little bit of space in between how you learn. See, this whole idea of cramming doesn't lead to you really knowing anything. Sorry, all those crammings you did before tests, maybe in college you managed to get away with it. You crammed in all the right facts. But a presentation is not the same thing. A presentation, you need to take the time. Really take the time to get that presentation down, to make sure it works, to make sure it's fully in your head. Make sure it's fully there. All there. Before you get up on stage and try to say it in front of some people out there. Take that time. And that simply means as far before the actual date you're going to go out and do that presentation, run the presentation through once. Just figure out, okay, here's the linkage I'm going to use. Great. Here's the verbs I'm going to use, the verbalization. Say it out loud. Just run it through once. That's it. And then stop. Let it go. Let that sink in. You see, the way your minds work best is not if you just cram everything in the hour before you get up there, but it's if there's some time between to let things sink into your mind. Maybe you even heard that expression. Let it sink in. Let that sink in. Let that sink in a little bit. Is it sinking in? You probably heard that expression all the time. But think about what that means. That means there has to be somebody telling you something, and then time for that stuff to sink in. Now, sinking doesn't mean it sinks like that. No. Things sink like this. That's how things sink in. You don't say let it sink in like a lead balloon. No, let it sink in gradually. That tells you already you need to take the time. Spaced learning. So you go and run through it once. The next day you run through it again. The next day you run through it again. If you do this 1 month before your presentation, and you go through that thing, let's just say 30 times. 30 times, one night, just once, all the way through, one night, you can do it, find a half an hour. You've done that presentation 30 times, and you've had a whole day to let each time you did it sink in. Now everything comes together. Because you've got your linkages. Linkages to your presentation, linkages with your audience. You verbalized it, and now it's synced in with spaced learning. Now you're ready to go. But challenge of giving a presentation is getting up there and having everything just kind of hit, but not really to get tied together. To tie things together, remember to do linkages. Linkages that link from one idea to the next. So it isn't just, here's a slide, and here's another slide, and here's another slide, and here's another slide, but it's like, here's the profit. You can see our profit is going up. Now, as increased profit we expect to, that's a linkage to the next slide. Purchase these sort of things, and to purchase these sort of things will enable us to have more profit in order to build this. When we're building this, we're going to, those are linkages. Linkages that move the whole thing forward. And you can also refer back. You say, in a little bit, I'm going to talk about more about what we're going to be doing with our grand plan. And then later on, you say, as you know, the grand plan mentioned earlier is about linkages. Just link all the way through, links and pushes that presentation all the way forward. But linkages alone aren't enough. Because to link something really well, you have to have it in your head. To get it in your head, you have to verbalize it. It's not enough to talk about, oh, we think we're going to do this, and I think I'm going to do this, and I think I'm going to do that. Or get your team together and say, okay, Bob, you're going to handle the revenue, and Sally, you're going to handle the profit coming in, and Bob, you're going to handle the difference between the profit and the revenue, and get everybody doing everything. No! You want the verbalization. You want to find exactly what people are going to say to link those things through. And know what that is before you get up there. How is all this stuff going to get through? Because presentations are complex. You got a lot of different things going on, and you want to kind of have this whole thing form a view. All these slides should be to get some idea across. And you want to make sure that idea links smoothly. So instead of just making up linkages on the fly, you practice them in advance. Get them straight in your head. Know what they are. Understand what they are when you get up there. Now, in order to make that happen, you really need to do spaced learning. Spaced learning just means that you don't try to cram everything the day before. You don't say, oh, we're switching this, and we're going to switch this slide. We're going to take half of Bob's decks and half of Sheila's deck and half of Ted's deck, and I think Jim's got a deck over there. We'll stick all these decks together, and we'll form some sort of Franken deck, and then boom, we'll get them presented. It's a disaster. Instead, get some time in advance. Solidify what you're going to have in your presentation way before you give the presentation. Ideally, do it a month in advance. And then do spaced learning. Just take a little time. Do it once all the way through. One day. Okay, I'm going to take a half hour, do it all the way through. Hour. Do my hour presentation all the way through. Exactly as I'm going to do it on stage. Then you're done. That's it. Whether it went great or whether it didn't go so great, don't worry about it. You're done. The next day, all the way through. Okay, then you're done. And by doing this, you'll say, okay, that didn't work, I'm going to try a different thing, etc. But you'll get used to doing things all the way through. The problem is if you do a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there, you never get that flow. And you also get the wrong idea that if anything goes wrong, oh, I'll just go back to the beginning and fix it. No. If you're going through a presentation, you're practicing it, and suddenly it falls apart, it's all right. Keep going. It's a very good real-life practice, because if you're up there and things are falling apart, you still got to go all the way through. But by doing this, day after day after day after day after day, you get it. You learn it. It starts to sink in, because things need time to sink in. And that's simply spaced learning. Verbalize it, pause, verbalize it, pause, verbalize it. Get all those linkages together for exactly what you're going to be saying. By the time you've done it 30 times, you'll have it really well in your head. If you don't figure out how your presentation is going to flow, it just goes like slide, 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 slide. It's a disaster. So instead, start using linkages. Link things forward. Get them smoothly going. And once you start using linkages, and then you start verbalizing things, and then you use spaced learning, all of a sudden your presentations are smooth. They're brilliant. Afterwards, people say, wow, that really made sense. Tell me more about this. I get it. I understand it. The audience will be understanding. They'll get it deep learning. They'll understand what you're talking about. You'll understand what you're talking about. Be more confident and certain than ever before. So remember, do the work and do the links.